we will attempt to sail from Alaska to Greenland over the top of North America. You're gonna be dodging icebergs and pack ice, hoping for the ice to even open up in the first place. We have now left Seward, Alaska, just in front of a big low pressure that we are trying to dodge. We are trying to make some miles and get away from underneath it. We spent the last 5 weeks in Seward fixing up the boat and doing maintenance and trying to get everything as ready as possible. It was an intensive 5 weeks. So let's take a look at those 5 weeks and some of the preparations that we did for the Northwest Passage. Most of it was the typical type of boat jobs where you crawl into a small hole and try to do things there. Here I think I'm trying to fix some of the plumbing issues and installing a new water filter. And here I'm doing something to our rudder bearing, but mostly I'm just sitting inside the locker in desperation. Hyvä, että no ei niinku halua kuitenkaan silleen pysäyttää ja odottaa vaan. All right, let the fun begin, and well, you can see that it has already begun. So this is our home now for the next few days at least, and once again our strategy with the boat work is that we want to get it done as quickly as possible, so that's why I'm not filming that much here at the boat yard. I already got the propeller almost changed. We are switching to a fixed propeller for the Northwest Passage. Not only because it's a little bit more resistant to ice, but also because it simply doesn't have any moving parts, so less chances of anything breaking there, although our old AutoStream feathering prop has been like really good. We also had an issue with the centerboard, which we almost have fixed, and the welder came by and we have some welding jobs lined up for the next few days. The hull has been washed, and so we can start with the painting hopefully tomorrow, but unfortunately the weather looks really bad. Is my face blue as well? Yeah, I think so, but luckily our anti-fouling, it's non-toxic, so it doesn't really matter if you get it on yourself. You just turn blue. We then started preparing for the arrival of the welder by drilling a new hole for the new transducer, and so we already did some cleanup for the upcoming painting. This here is the new transducer housing, which was welded on and which you might have already seen in my technical tour video. We also reinforced the rear daggerboard case a little bit, and then I also finished installing the new propeller. We also had to grind, clean and paint some of the spots around the keel stub area, because this is where the paint starts flaking off when you beach the boat and when it gets abraded against the sand and gravel. And this was kind of annoying because the temperatures were a little bit too low, so we had to use a heat gun for some additional heat. The final job at the boatyard was applying a new layer of anti-fouling paint. Seeing a new layer of paint being applied is always the most satisfying part, and it often also means that you are soon going to be back in the water. Back at the dock, so we started fixing and painting our aft lazarette lockers, while I managed to make the biggest mistake during these 5 weeks. Great stuff! I accidentally made a really big hole in the hull. 70 millimeters, 3 inches. This thing here, I mean, you wouldn't believe it. I was so pissed off. Oh my god. What I tried to do is I tried to use this hole saw to just remove the insulation and the plywood, so I would have space to make a smaller hole and install a new skin fitting, actually a smaller one than this. So of course when you drill through that, you notice instantly when the hole saw touches the aluminum, and that's when you know when to stop. And I took the hole saw out, and this is where the brain fart happened. I took it out and I looked inside, and there was the piece of insulation and plywood, and it was still there was still room in there because this is a deep hole saw. And normally if you wanted to drill through the whole hull, you would have to remove the insulation and the plywood from inside the hole saw. But I saw that there's still space in there, and somehow I was like, okay, there's still space in there, so I can continue. And I just put the hole saw back in and started drilling. And it actually takes effort to go through the hull with a really crappy hole saw. But I didn't realize what I was doing until like I went through all the way through the hull, and now I'm suddenly looking at this really big hole. Oh my god, that's so bad. Honestly, I wasn't really mad about the hole itself, because fixing something like that is not that hard. It just takes some time and effort. But at this point we were already pretty exhausted, and we really didn't have much extra time. The season for the Northwest Passage is very short, and we really wanted to get moving towards north. Well, it's fixed now. We also had some very cool stuff to install. These here are the 100-watt Sealeaf solar panels from Lightleaf. Lightleaf provided these panels and is sponsoring this video. These panels are rigid but super light carbon fiber, and they come ready to mount on rails or biminis or arches. And because of their lightness and rigidity, they don't require any clumsy brackets or extra supports. The installation is super simple and fast. Here you can see me putting the first one together in a typical male fashion without having read the manual at all. Wow, that's pretty impressive. I thought there would be some flex to these, but they are really actually super rigid. Wow, that's cool. I wanted to install something on our rails to extend the solar capacity of the boat, and I chose the Lightleaf panels because I believe that they are the best panels for this application, and they are specifically made for this. The panels clamp onto the rail and they can be adjusted into any angle, which is also a great help in the northern latitudes when the sun is low. Now the satisfying part. The light leaf panels are made in Canada using the premium Maxion cells, and I have to say that these panels look pretty sexy, and in comparison Lumi was looking very disarranged and dirty after the boatyard visit. Huge thanks to Lightleaf for the extremely well thought out product, and Lightleaf also makes panels for RVs and camper vans and custom panels for almost any use. Check out their website, I'll insert the link here and down below in the description. Next up, we wanted to improve the insulation of the boat a little bit further, so we added some insulation to all of the floorboards. We also added insulation to the underside of our lazarette hatches, and that's not really for the heat but mostly to prevent condensation, because we've been having moisture dripping down on all of the gear that was stored in the lazarette. I also did several trips up the mast just to put in a spinnaker halyard and to fix a couple of small things with the rigging, and most of all just to make sure that everything is 100% in order. After that we moved into the engine compartment, and the first thing that I did was the valve flash or the tappet adjustment, and it's the first time that we've done that. Huge thanks to both Ben and Damian for showing up and giving me a hand and some useful advice. Then I extended the alternator regulator wiring harness, and that was an ugly job but very functional and secure. And after that I moved into checking the cooling system. Okay, greetings from the engine bay here, and this is what I've been up to. So I've opened a bunch of things here on the cooling system side. And the only thing that really was wrong was the mixing elbow. This is where salt water mixes with the exhaust gases, and if you look really carefully there in the center of the picture over there, there's some rust. The weld seam there has failed, allowing water or exhaust gases or whatever to get through. So this one I'm going to replace, even though it looks pretty good otherwise. It's actually kind of surprising how it failed like that. But if you look at the replacement is from HDI Marine, and this one is cast stainless steel, so it doesn't have welding seams, and it's also much thicker, so it should last a lot longer, because this one only lasted like 800 hours or so. And I know that in the tropics you might have to change the mixing elbow on these engines once per year. Other than that, things look super good. I took out the cooling tubes here and I already cleaned them out a little bit, but they were basically completely clean to begin with. It was completely clean except of some crusty stuff here, and if you look here it looks clean and beautiful. I haven't even cleaned this yet. So this is where you have problems on these engines. If these O-rings here fail, then salt water will attack this surface here and cause corrosion and make it so that the O-rings will never hold water again, because it's corroded, and then eventually salt water will make its way into the freshwater side of the engine, and that's obviously really bad. This is the old O-ring, and this one is getting crusty. This one was like pretty close to failing, even though the whole system looked really good from outside. But I'm just gonna clean things up and change some cooling hoses and filters and so on, and I'll get back to you. Back outside, I wanted to change this round plastic inspection hatch, first of all because it was slightly leaking, and second of all because I was worried about it getting brittle and breaking in cold temperatures. The whole swim platform goes underwater in big waves and high speeds, so it's a critical location. The replacement is a sturdy waterproof aluminum hatch. With that out of the way, we borrowed a truck and made our way to the nearest Costco for a very large supply run. We bought 5 large carts worth of food, and I strategically placed this camera in the cart that we used for the fresh and healthy stuff. Rest assured that actually most of the items that we bought were either canned or unhealthy or both. We took the next 2 days to try and stow all of this inside the boat, but in the end we just kind of left the dock with the boat still in a complete disarray. Bye bye! And that is how we finally get back to the actual sailing. So maybe you understand why I probably look a little bit tired, and Sophie is sleeping down below. We are sailing overnight now, and just trying to, I don't know, get some rest as well. It's not really working out, but anyway, we are currently crossing the entrance to the Cook Inlet, and this is actually a pretty notorious spot for very bad seas, and very bad things can happen here. This is the Cook Inlet. It has one of the biggest tides in the world, so with each tide change there's huge amount of water flowing in and then back out, and when you go across here you have to deal with all of that crap. You can see also right now that we are actually, our bow is pointing 20 degrees further to starboard, and we are actually going like kind of sideways here because the current is pushing us this way. But even though we are pointing that way, we are actually going this way. We want to keep at least a few miles of distance to these islands because they bottom gets shallow there, and it gets pretty awful there with the currents and the waves. And as you can see, the wind is picking up as well. Supposed to blow at least 25 knots later tonight or later today. By the way, when I said that this place here is known for being notoriously bad and having notoriously bad seas, literally all of the places that we're gonna go through the next few months are known for being bad. First we have now the Shelikof Strait, then we go through the Falls Pass or Unimak Pass. They are known for being or having difficult sea conditions. We will probably take the Falls Pass. Then you are gonna be in the Bering Sea. I mean, everyone who knows about Bering Sea knows that it's bad. Then you're gonna be in the Bering Strait and the Chukchi Sea, and then you're gonna be in the Arctic Ocean and the Beaufort Sea and Victoria Strait, the Bellot Strait riddled with ice. After that it's Baffin Bay, which is full of icebergs and really difficult conditions expected in the autumn, which is when we will be there, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be a fun ride. So while I was sleeping, Sophie took us all the way inside Shelikof Strait, so we are now in relatively protected waters, and to celebrate that I made some breakfast for myself. I mean, it's around 9 or 10 p.m. but I'm having my fried eggs and some sausage links. Everything is great. I mean, well, the food maybe not that great, it's okay as well, but the weather is really treating us well, so we have decided to take full advantage of this weather window and continue through the night and hopefully get to the Katmai National Park tomorrow. It's very famous for its bears, the big brown bears. They come to the beach to dig up clams. So maybe we have some luck seeing some bears. We really have to be a bit careful about choosing our anchorage now, because the winds that are coming in the next few days look really strong. We're gonna have multiple days of 40-50 knots or something like that. It's gonna be blowing here through the channel for sure, but I don't know about these anchorages that are, you know, we are gonna be going into one of these bays here, and the anchorage is in the middle of the mountains, so I'm a little bit worried about katabatic winds, you know, willy walls blowing down from the mountains. We're gonna go around here, and then we either go into this bay here or we go all the way in here into the geographic harbor. I think I have to jibe now. Well, really cool place, and you probably won't believe me, but I already saw 2 bears. That was cool. There were 2 big brown bears, really big ones. But yeah, it really reminds me a little bit of Norway, because there's no trees here, or at least very few. You know, in Alaska, so far most of the places we've been to there's been a lot of trees, but not so much here. It's getting windy, and like I thought, this spot here is not really that protected, and the mountains I think are causing us trouble here. Yeah, this wind here is an issue because the storm is not even here yet. This is just like the beginning. Today's weather forecast was 15 knots of wind, and tomorrow and the day after it's going to be a forecast of 30-40 knots, and it's gusting. The biggest gusts here are around 30 knots already right now. With the outer anchorage being very windy, we decided to try the entrance into Geographic Harbor. This area is not charted at all, and the instructions that we had for entering were very vague. We knew of at least 2 sailboats that had got grounded here, and with the tide being low, it started getting a little bit exciting. I'm actually reversing here now, so we don't go so fast. I'm reversing, but the wind is behind. The wind is coming from behind, so we are still doing 2.5 knots. So this is like the situation where you don't want to end up on the rock, because the wind is just gonna push you further and further. Karhu havaittu, karhu havaittu. Karhuhälytys. 2 bears. Just made it inside the harbor, already we see the bears. Aika siistiä. Yep. Coming in during low tide was a little bit sketchy, but the advantage is now that because it's low tide, the mud flats are exposed, and that's where the bears are digging for the clams. Or digging for something, I don't know. Or maybe they are just having mud baths. You don't need the binoculars anymore. Huhhuh. Kovaa olla parkissa. Mäkin aion, I'm going to sleep for 24 hours. Unfortunately, we did not get much sleep before the winds kicked in. And the problem with these mountainous areas is that the wind gusts come from seemingly random directions. It's been stormy for almost 3 days now. We are anchored in 30 meters of water, which is really deep, and we have around 120 meters of road out. But this is maybe something that we are used to. We are not that experienced or not that used to like real offshore sailing and really long passages, but we are used to being at anchorages during high winds and also being at not that optimal anchorages. It's a really cool spot though, with the bears walking around on the beach. One thing I've noticed here during these days is that the water has turned really brown with all of this rainwater coming down from the streams and from this river delta here. It's very, very brown and muddy here right now. Setting off directly after the intensive boat maintenance period had put its toll on us. With the worst of the wind having passed, we really enjoyed just resting and sleeping and observing the bears directly from the cockpit. But this is only the start of the journey towards the Northwest Passage and Greenland, and in the coming weeks we would not only have to brave the Bering Strait, but also the lingering sea ice in the Arctic Ocean and the icebergs in the Baffin Bay. I'll try to put out a video of our Northwest Passage attempt every 2 weeks, so the next video should be out in 2 weeks. If you like the video, then please remember to subscribe, that helps me out a bit. And if you really liked the video, then please check out my Patreon page. These videos are crowdfunded, so huge thanks to all of my patrons. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Bye bye.